Genesis 34. Genesis 34. We are on Bible Character Study number 30, Jacob Part E. Jacob Part E is the sheet that we're on, and I don't see any sheets in the back table. I think there's a couple in the bulletins. Sarah's going to grab a couple from the bulletins in the copy room. The bulletins in the slot on the. See them? So if anybody needs one, Sarah's got a few extras, I think. Who needs a sheet? It's not just Rita. So, Genesis 34, and I'm going to read the first 7 verses to start with. If you have looked at this recently, it's kind of a sad and disturbing tale, but it actually happened. And so here is Genesis 34, and I'm starting at verse 1. Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to visit the daughters of the land. When Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her, he took her and lay with her by force. He was deeply attracted to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the girl and spoke tenderly to her. So Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, "Get me this young girl for a wife." Now Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter, but his sons were with his livestock in the field, so Jacob kept silent until they came in. Then Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak with him. Now the sons of Jacob came in from the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved, and they were very angry because he had done a disgraceful thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, for such a thing ought not to be done. So the ongoing saga of Jacob and his family, and we're going to get more insight into events and attitudes that trail along with him. So on the question sheet tonight, we're on page 28 at the bottom, Bible Character Study number 30, Jacob Part E at the top. And question number 1, where were Jacob and his family staying? The city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan. So Canaan is that strip of land along the eastern shore of the Mediterranean Sea. Number 2, apparently some time has passed, and Jacob's older sons are now young men. What did Jacob do when he heard his daughter had been raped? He kept silent until his sons arrived. And number 3, why do you think he did so? Well, the Bible doesn't say specifically. There are a couple of things. One is a cultural statement, and the other is a likely statement about Jacob. The cultural bit is, in cases of marriage negotiations, it wasn't just the father, it was often the brothers of the girl who were involved in that negotiation. So that's a cultural statement. The statement about Jacob is really kind of sad. Did you notice how we're introduced to Dinah in verse 1? Daughter of Leah. Now, who did Jacob love? Rachel. And Leah was kind of on the back burner. Remember that? So it's sad to say this even, but it looks like Jacob's favoritism extended not just to Rachel versus Leah, but Leah's children. And so he really really loved the 2 children that Rachel gave birth to. Who would that be again? Joseph and Benjamin. He loved them. And the others are like, yeah, they're my sons. And it might be that we're seeing that favoritism play out here. How sad, how horrible that is. Carl.
Is it possible that Jacob had someone because the job that the boys were doing out in the field is a preferred job, and one of them trusts Jacob to do that his livestock is?
That would be a very charitable understanding of it. A case of rape in the Middle East. You know, you can see the language that's used here, a disgraceful thing. And that language gets picked up later on in the law of God in Moses' time to say a rape is a very, very bad thing. So I would doubt that Jacob says, well, that's too bad, but the boys have got a big job to do. I would doubt that is the explanation for it, yeah. So, number 4, did Jacob handle marriage negotiations with King Hamor and Prince Shechem? No, actually, he let his sons negotiate. And again, that's not too unusual because sons, that is the brothers of the sister, were often engaged in that culture in those kinds of negotiations. It is a little strange that Jacob seems to be taking entirely a back seat. He seems to be backing right out of it. So, number 5, did Hamor, Shechem, and the men of their city agree to the terms of circumcision? Yes, they did. So here's what happened. The sons of Jacob met with Hamor and Shechem is saying, Dad, I want that girl. I want that girl as my wife. And so they come and they're bargaining with Jacob and the sons of Jacob. And the sons of Jacob say, well, here's the thing. We don't intermarry with men who are not circumcised. Now, there's no hint here. There's no indication of any kind that Jacob and his sons are saying, you have to convert to our religion. There's no hint of that. They don't mention God at all. They're just saying, we have this thing that's kind of unique to our family. We require that all the men get circumcised. So then, well, let's look at it. Let's look at what they say in verse 9. Intermarry with us. This is Hamor and Shechem. Intermarry with us. Give your daughters to us and take our daughters for yourselves. Thus you shall live with us, and the land shall be open before you. Live and trade in it and acquire property in it. Shechem also said to her father and to her brothers, if I find favor in your sight, then I'll give whatever you say to me. So he loves this girl, and he says, I'll pay any price. There's a bride price, and I'll pay any price. And so they say, verses 13 and following, we have to give our sister to men who are circumcised. That's one of our requirements. Verse 18, now their words seemed reasonable to Hamor and to Shechem, Hamor's son. The young man did not delay to do the thing because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. Now he was more respected than all the household of his father. So Hamor and his son Shechem came to the gate of the city and spoke to the men of their city, saying, these men are friendly with us. Therefore let them live in the land and trade in it. For behold, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters in marriage and give our daughters to them. Only on this condition will the men consent to us to live with us, to become one people, that every male among us be circumcised as they are circumcised. Will not their livestock and their property and all their animals be ours? Only let us consent to them, and they will live with us. All who went out of the gate of his city listened to Hamor and to his son Shechem, and every male was circumcised, all who went out of the gate of his city. So Hamor and Shechem talked to all the men of their city. Apparently it's a small town, but a prosperous one. They're doing well. And they're saying, this is a no-brainer. We go through this ritual, and there's a couple of days of pain. But look, now remember, what kind of wealth did Jacob have? Incredible wealth. He had so many. Remember, he split his holdings up into companies, different camps. And he had so many donkeys and so many sheep and goats and camels. He is a rich, rich man. And the men of Shechem, the city, look and they say, this is a no-brainer. They're offering us to join together and become a single tribe. Look at these guys. They are wealthy. They have animals like nobody's business. Why are we even hesitating? And Shechem persuades all the men of the city. Yes, it's a painful thing, it's awkward, but look, a couple days and we're going to be rich and we'll have everything we wanted. So, number 6. What did Jacob's sons Simeon and Levi, who were full brothers to Dinah, do on the 3rd day after the Shechemites had circumcised themselves and Dinah had been taken into Prince Shechem's house? They killed King Hamor, Prince Shechem, and every male. They took Dinah and looted the city. They took their animals, all their wealth, all their little ones, wives, and all that was in the houses. Now, ponder this for a minute. they had used circumcision, which God gave to Abram as a sign of the covenant. This is an indicator that you, the children of Israel, belong to me and not to anybody else. And Simeon and Levi had used that sign in a very, very wicked way. It was deceit. That they had no intention of letting their sister marry. They had no intention of joining with this people. They used it as a pretext to get them all lamed up so that they were ready for butchering. Wow. So they slaughtered, can you even imagine, every single male in that city. And then they kidnap all the children and all the women. And then they loot, they take all their wealth. Wow. This is really something. Now, notice what question number 7. What did Jacob say to his vengeful sons? You have brought trouble on me by making me odious. There's a great word. What does odious mean? A stink. This is terrible. The people won't be able to stand to be around us. Among the Canaanites, we are few in number. They will attack us and destroy us. Now, his fears were unfounded because God is going to protect him and his family. Is there evidence that he disciplined his sons? Nope. There's no clue that he did anything to Simeon and Levi. Were Simeon and Levi repentant? No. There's no indication that they said, we're really sorry that we killed all those men. Nothing like that. So, moving on to chapter 35, question number 10. Where did God command Jacob to go and live? Bethel. What did God command Jacob to build? An altar. This is perhaps God saying to Jacob and his family, you need to get right with me. You are out of sorts. You are not in fellowship with me. Number 12, of what event did God remind Jacob? When God appeared to Jacob when he fled from Esau, that very first time, years and years earlier. Number 13, what did Jacob tell his household to do before they traveled? Put away all the foreign gods which are among you, purify yourselves, and change your garments. What does this command imply? So, he has said that he belongs to Jehovah, but nonetheless there are still idols among the family. People have little amulets and little trinkets and little shrines to various gods and goddesses, and that's been going on all this time. Now, it does show some positive leadership on the part of Jacob, that he says, it's time to get done with all that junk. It's time to put all that idolatry away. We're done with that. We're not going to be worshiping those other gods anymore. That's not who we are. So that's a positive statement. It is kind of sad that it's been all these years that he has not done that, but now at least he's taking a step of positive leadership. Did the household obey? Yes, they did. They took, and their earrings, to apparently their earrings were in some way associated with idolatry. That's not necessarily true today, of course, but it was for them. They got rid of their household gods and their rings. Number 16, how did God protect the household as they traveled despite Simeon and Levi's revenge? God caused a great terror to come upon the cities around them. So they were a wealthy clan, and they number, quite a few now, but nonetheless, a city that had an army of 300 or 400 guys, they could take them on. But God supernaturally caused all the cities around where they were traveling to say, we don't know who they are, but we don't want to mess with them. And so they just were protected by God on their journeys. Number 17, what did Jacob build at Bethel? An altar. Number 18, what happened once Jacob obeyed God's command? God appeared to Jacob. And what did God confirm in verse 10? Jacob's name has been changed to Israel. So his name is now officially Israel. God confirms that. And then he also confirms two promises that he had made to Abraham, and God does this in verses 11 and 12. This is paraphrased. A nation will come from you, and I will give to you and your descendants the land I gave to Abraham and Isaac. So God is confirming the Abrahamic covenant and the covenant of the land. That land belongs to you and your descendants forever. Number 21, what did Jacob do to honor God after he went up? He set up a pillar, a rock, a pillar of some kind, and he poured a drink offering on it. We don't know what that was. It doesn't specify. It could have been as simple as water. It might have been grape juice. It could have been some other kind of juice. And oil. He poured those out upon it as an offering. Number 22, the household traveled towards Ephrath, also known as Bethlehem. What happened on the way? Rachel went into hard or severe labor. So she's getting ready to give birth, and it's not going well. And there's troubles with the delivery, and she is actually beginning to die. We don't know if she's bleeding out or just what happened. But Rachel called her son, what, did you catch it? Ben-Oni, which means son of my sorrow, because she's dying. However, Jacob changed his name. He didn't want his son from his favorite wife to go through life with a bad name, and so he calls him Benjamin. That name is still extremely popular in Israel today. The previous prime minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, or in Hebrew, Benjamin, the J is a Y, Benjamin, son of my right hand. Why the right hand? So the right hand is a hand of honor, strength, power. If you're to name your son the son of my left hand, that would be an insult. That would not be a good name. Son of my right hand is a name of power and prestige. Yes. So there actually is a name in English. It comes to us through Latin, and it's not widely known, but this is a kind of an insulting name. The name, I was thinking, the Latin for the right hand is dexterous, and the left hand is sinister. So that's the left hand in Latin. So there's an association with that is unsavory. Number 25, later Jacob's firstborn Reuben committed a grave sin, and he went into one of his father's wives. It was Bilhah. Is there any evidence that Jacob rebuked or punished his son? Isn't it sad that the Bible records factually that so many great people had really lousy family life? Isn't that sad? And here's Jacob, who is one of the patriarchs. I mean, he's one of the great Jews of all time, and he trusted God, and he's the father of the 12 tribes, and he saved the family by going down to Egypt and all this. But his family life is wretched. And how sad is that? Well, now in Genesis 37. So in Genesis 37, and let me read just a couple of verses, and this is going to overlap with Joseph's material too, but I'll read a couple of verses in Genesis 37. Now Jacob lived in the land where his father had sojourned, in the land of Canaan. These are the records of the generations of Jacob. Joseph, when 17 years of age, was pasturing the flock with his brothers while he was still a youth, along with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought back a bad report about them to their father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a varicolored tunic. His brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, and so they hated him and could not speak to him on friendly terms. So notice that Jacob is called Israel several times here. Some time has passed. By calculating various ages recorded throughout the remaining chapters of Genesis, we learn that Jacob is now 108. His older sons are well into adulthood and are probably all married and having children. The entire household lives together, however, and Jacob's sons pasture his flocks, and they may have farmed wheat as well. Number 26, what problem with Jacob do you see? Favoritism, and that is bad. God does not have good things to say about favoritism. What did Jacob give his 17-year-old son? A coat of many colors, a varicolored tunic. Probably a better, the Hebrew is a little obscure, but probably a better translation instead of a multicolored tunic would be a long-sleeved robe. Huh? Now, why would that be such a big deal? Well, it actually is a sign of status. If you're going to be working with sheep or you're going to be out in the field harvesting wheat, how long do you want your cloak or your it's really a single shirt. A tunic is a shirt that you wear. How long do you want it to be if you're going to be cutting wheat and stacking sheaves or getting sheep wrangled for shearing? How long would you like your robe to be? Maybe about knee length. But if you are a supervisor, if you know the DOT crews, the supervisor, he's the one with the clipboard, right? Yeah. Or now I guess it's an iPad or something. So what did Jacob do for Joseph? He gave him a clipboard. He's saying, you're in charge. I like you. And now there actually is cause for that, because even at 17 years of age, evidently Jacob is just really, really good at administration, organization, leadership. He's just really good at it. So there is some basis for that we find out as we go through Joseph's story, but nonetheless, Jacob probably doesn't even know it, but he is setting Joseph up for what from his brothers? They can't stand him. If they see him coming, they mutter to each other, here comes Goody Two-Shoes, here comes Daddy's boy, here comes the guy with a nice robe, doesn't he look fine? You can kind of hear him, can't you? That's what they're doing. They see him coming across the field and say, oh boy, here he comes. And it gets to the point where they cannot even talk civilly to him. They're not even capable of having a friendly conversation with their half-brother. So what happens is, number 20, 27, and 28, thank you. How did Jacob respond to Joseph telling the family his second dream? He rebuked him, but he also kept the saying in mind. So Jacob said, son, that's not really a very good dream. But he also filed it away and pondered it. Number 29, do you think Jacob was aware his older sons hated Joseph? What do you think, Rach? She doesn't know.
I think he was aware but didn't care.
Okay.
Joseph was so much better than they were.
Okay. Aware but didn't care? I'm not sure. He's kind of detached in many ways. Yeah. Yeah. Seems like he's not really involved in family life like he should be. Yeah.
He's almost obsessed with him.
Yes. Yeah. Joseph and Benjamin. So after Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers, who were pasturing Jacob's flock some distance away, the men conspired to kill him, but settled on selling him as a slave to passing traders. What technique did they use to convince Jacob that Joseph had been killed? They dipped Joseph's tunic or robe in a goat's blood and claimed to have found it. So they sent that back with a messenger or something, said, this looks familiar. Do you know who it belongs to? And wow, it was probably all shredded. They cut it up and tore it up and dipped it in blood, and wow. And this is kind of ironic. Why is it ironic? Okay, it's the coat that Jacob gave to Joseph, showing special favoritism. It's also ironic because Jacob had once used a goat's skin to fool his father. Isaac says, "Are you really Esau?" And Jacob says, "Yes, Dad." And Isaac he's blind. He feels him. You're hairy like Esau, but you sound like Jacob. How did you get the deer so fast? The Lord gave it to me. He's got a goat skin wrapped around his neck and arms. He's lying to his father with a goat skin. And now Jacob gets a bloody, torn coat. And he doesn't know it's goat's blood. How would he know? Very ironic. Number 32, how long did Jacob mourn for Joseph? Many days. He couldn't get over it. In fact, number 33, what did he say when his children tried to comfort him? Surely I will go down to Sheol in mourning for my son. Or to paraphrase it, I will continue to mourn until I join my son in the grave. So he says, I'm so sad, I'm going to die. I miss Joseph so much. It's almost like he's saying, I wish I were dead. That's how sad he is. So, what a messed up family, huh? Wow. And you recognize, don't you, the name of Simeon and Levi and Reuben and Judah and Asher and Gad. Who are these guys? They're the tribes of Israel. Those are the 12 sons who become the heads of the tribes. What in the world? You've got to be kidding me. This dysfunctional mess is God's chosen people? Yes. And it's not because they were exceptionally nice. And it's not because they were brilliant or because they were godly. No, God chose them because God is gracious. Not because they were especially worthy. And so Jacob, we see like one step forward and then a couple steps back in his spiritual progress. And that's what we're looking at here. Any other comments or questions on Jacob from tonight? Take your prayer bulletins